Okay, so we loaded our film into the canister, and now we're going to go through the process of doing our film development out here in the light part of the darkroom. First of all, the film developing sink right here, I'm going to want to make sure I turn on my safety fan. So I'm going to press this button in here. Green light goes on, that indicates that the fan is operational and we're ready to go. I'm going to set this down here in the sink and set it aside for a minute while I get things ready. First of all, I'm going to grab my chemical jugs from up here on the shelf, bring them over to the sink. So I'm going to grab my stop bath container. First one, set that in there. My fixer film container, make sure it says fixer film on it. Bring that over. And then the fixer remover as well. Also here I've got my timer that we're going to use to time the process. You can also use your phone if you'd rather use that. Lastly, we've got over here our film developer chemical. We're going to grab, that's the stock solution chemical. We're going to get 2 ounces of that with 18 ounces of water. For our film developing. And then up here we've got thermostat. So we want to make sure that our temperature, the water is coming out of the faucet at 68 degrees. And once we turn the water on, it'll take about 3 or 4 minutes for this to equilibrate and bring us down to 68, but it should do that. And then we'll be ready to go. If we do need to, we can always check our temperature of the water with a thermometer here up in this box. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a beaker now and turn my water on, and then we'll get the first chemical, the film developer chemical, ready to go. Okay, so I'm just turning my water on. We'll let that run for a couple minutes. And once it's equilibrated, then we'll be ready to go. While that's going, I'm going to grab my gloves and safety goggles from the safety station. Okay, it looks like our temperature has come down to 68, so we're all ready to start. We'll turn off the water. Okay, so I brought my beaker over here, and I've got my gloves, safety gloves and goggles on, and I'm going to go ahead and open the spigot here on the film developer. And we're going to dilute this 1 to 9, so 2 ounces of film developer to 18 ounces of water. I'm just going to kind of approximate that, and then I'm going to set it up here on the bench to check it. And if I've taken a little too much developer, which it looks like I have, I'm just going to dump that out in the sink, or if another student's working, I can give it to them. But it's really important that we're pretty precise with that so that our dilution ends up being the correct amount of film developer for our film. So I'll bring that back over to the sink, and we'll dump out just a tiny bit to get it down to 2 ounces, and then add the water on top of that. Okay, so we've got that down to 2 ounces, and I'm going to go ahead and add my 68-degree water to that right here. So again, this faucet and this faucet have 68-degree water. This one is not temperature controlled. Okay, so I've got my 20 ounces of developer. I'm going to set that down in the sink. I'm going to set up the rest of my beakers now. I'm going to set these up in order, so I'll have, first I'm going to do my water, my pre-wash, so I'm going to have 20 ounces of water. And then I'm going to have my stop bath after the developer. So I'm going to take the stop bath out and pour that into my container here. Stop bath is going to be a bright yellow, and it has an indicator built into it, so when it turns a kind of dark purple color, it means that it's no longer good, it's spent, and at that point the container can be dumped down the drain, and you should let a monitor know so that some more stop bath can be provided, but there's always some more jugs up there that you can use. Fixer is going to be the fourth beaker that we're going to have set up out here. We'll go ahead and grab the fixer, again fixer film, and again 20 ounces of that as well. Fixer comes out clear, and it does have an indicator. We're going to check it with a little chemical called hypo check. And we're going to drop a drop of the hypo check into it in a second here. And what we want to see is a little cloud form that then disappears. If the cloud stays, that means that the fixer is spent, and that fixer needs to go down a special drain in the sink at the back there that goes into the silver recovery unit. I'm going to set that down, and I'm just going to grab my hypo check. Okay, I've got my hypo check here, and I'm going to go ahead and just do 1 drop of that into the fixer here and watch what happens. Okay, so a little cloud formed and then disappeared. It's still clear now, and that means that it's good fixer to use for processing. Set that aside. And then the last chemical here is going to be our fixer remover. And fixer remover is going to be a nice blue color. 20 ounces of that. And when the fixer remover is spent, it actually turns clear. So if this is clear, then that means it is spent, and that can get poured down the regular drain here. And again, you should let the monitor know, and they will replenish it if it does run out. Okay, I've got all my chemicals ready in order here, and I'm now ready to start my film processing. I'm going to turn my little clock on, or else turn my phone on to start timing. So I'm just go ahead and set that going. And then I'm going to open up my film cap here, take off the cap, set that aside for a moment, and go ahead and pour in the first chemical. Oh, wait, sorry, pour in the water for the pre-wash. Go ahead and pour in the whole thing and let it drain in there. Set that aside, and then go ahead and put my cap on, and I'm just going to agitate this continuously for the first 45 seconds. And again, agitation is not shaking this, it's just sort of gently turning it over like this continuously. And at the end of your agitation period, or in this case, our pre-wash, we'll just go ahead and dump this out, and it'll go right down the drain. And we'll be ready to put our first chemical into the developer. 5 more seconds here. Okay, take the cap off. Just pour this out into the sink. Okay. Grab my developer and go ahead and pour that in. I'm going to agitate continuously for the first minute for this. We're going to do this for a total of 8.5 minutes. At the end of the first minute, I'm going to go ahead and just bang it down on the sink like that, and that dislodges any bubbles, any air bubbles that might be attaching or might be attached to the film and be preventing the film from getting properly developed. And then I'm going to go ahead and agitate for 5 seconds every 30 seconds. So after about 25 seconds here, I will go ahead and agitate for 5 seconds. Okay, pick it up and go ahead and agitate for 5 seconds, like that, and then again just a little bang on the sink to dislodge any bubbles. And we'll continue doing that for the full 8.5 minutes. If for some reason you weren't able to get the water temperature to be 68 degrees, if for some reason the temperature was too hot, you can adjust your timing of the development of the film using a chart up on the sink wall here. All the chemicals that we're using today are going to get recycled, except for the developer. When we're finished with that, it will also get poured down the drain. The other chemicals will get poured back into their brown jugs. Okay, there's 8 minutes, and so this will be our last section here, and we'll go ahead and dump the chemical developer out during the last 5 seconds, coming up on 8.5 minutes. Take my cap off, set that aside. The developer is just going to go right down the drain here. It's only gets used once. We'll go ahead and pour that out here in the last 5 seconds. And I got my stop bath ready to go ahead and pour in. Cap on, and we're going to agitate that continuously for 1 minute. And take my cap off. I'm just going to pour that right back into the beaker that it came out of, and then when we're finished, we'll go ahead and pour that back into the jug. Okay, so we just finished with our stop bath, and we're going to do our fixer now. It's going to be 3 minutes of fixer. We're going to do the first 30 seconds of continuous agitation, and then 5 seconds for every 30 seconds thereafter. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. Put my cap on. And then continuous agitation for the first 30 seconds. And just like with our developer, we'll then agitate for 5 seconds for every 30 seconds thereafter. So wait 25 seconds and then agitate for 5 seconds. And then hanging down, dislodge any air bubbles. Okay, so that's 2.5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and get ready here to pour this back into the graduate that it came out of. Again, we'll recycle the fixer. I'll pour this out here in about 10 seconds. After the fixer, we're actually able to open our container up and let the film receive light. It's not archival yet. We have a few more steps to go, but we can go ahead and open it up. And what we're going to do right now is just do the next step by putting our jug underneath the water and letting it run for a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this underneath the flow here from the spigot and go ahead and turn that on and just let it run for a minute into the container. Okay, I'm going to turn that off and I can go ahead and drain that water out, and then I'm going to put my funnel back in and we're ready to do our fixer remover. Pour that in, and then we're going to put our cap back on and we'll agitate that continuously for 3 minutes. Okay, coming up on 3 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and take my cap off and pour it back into my graduate to be recycled into the jug in a minute. The next step is going to be to open the top again, and we're going to do a water wash underneath our faucet again for a full 5 minutes this time. I'm going to set this aside. And while that's going, I'm going to grab my funnels and put away my chemicals, rinse everything out, and clean up. Clean up the darkroom area where I loaded the film, and just let this wash happen on its own. Recycle my stop bath back into the stop bath container. Fixer back into the fixer container. And fixer remover back into fixer remover container. And then go ahead and put those jugs back up on the shelf. Again, rinse everything out, kind of give it a good rinse and wash, and then stick it down in the drying rack below so that it's ready for the next person to use. Okay, just finished with our 5 minutes of wash here. We're going to go ahead and dump out any extra water. Let that drain for a second. Take out our center column here, and we can now remove our empty roll. Set that aside. I'll give that a rinse in a minute. So now take out our center column as well. Set that aside, and then we're going to go ahead and drop our roll of film here into the photo flow container. Go ahead and drop that in there, and it's going to stay in there for 1 minute. No agitation. He's going to sit there and sort of rest. Basically, PhotoFlow is going to help promote clean drying, so we don't have any water droplets on our film after it's dried. Okay, our 1 minute's up. I'm going to go ahead and take that out of the PhotoFlow container. Drip off in there. Lid back on. And now I'm going to go ahead and take my gloves off. Throw those away in a minute. And I'm going to carefully remove the film from the film reel. So the film is quite fragile now in this state. It's been wet for about 20 minutes or so. And we don't want to scratch it or damage the film as we're taking it off. So I kind of pinch it with my fingers so that it comes off more easily that way. And again, we want to make sure our hands are clean when we're doing this, and also that if we have any rings on or anything like that, we're not going to touch the film with something sharp. Keep on rolling it here. Make sure it doesn't touch down in the bottom of the sink. Okay, at the end here, I can pull out the last little bit and set the reel aside. And then I just want to, over the floor here, go ahead and take the top in one hand and pinch together with my other hand and just gently pull down once, just to kind of get any extra water off. It's still going to be quite wet after that. And I can go ahead and take it over now to the film drying closet to hang up. In about 4 hours, it'll be dry. Okay, so I'm over by the film drying closet. We always want to leave this doors closed whenever we're not using it. And we're also going to go ahead and use one of an empty film canister here to give a weight to the bottom of our film so that it dries without curling. It'll dry flatter that way. So I'm going to grab that and we'll go ahead and go into the closet here to hang up our film. Turn on the light, wait a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and hang my film towards the back of the closet so that it's a little bit out of the way. And I can actually fold over the top here just to hold it over the metal wire. And with a clothespin, hold that in place, pinch that. And then at the bottom here, I'm just going to slide this over the bottom of my film at the very end, where there are no pictures, and give it a little pinch to hold it in place if it's falling off. A little pinch. And now that's going to hold it nice and flat while it dries. And again, I'll come back in about 4 hours, and it should be done by then. I'm just going to touch it with my fingers when I come in, and if it's still sticky or tacky, then it's not ready yet to go into my negative sleeves. And if it's not, then it's ready to come out, and I can take it over the light table and cut it up and put it into my sleeves. Close those doors and turn off the light.